I was able to be fortunate enough to lock this down. I hope everybody went out there and got their young high school juniors and seniors that play football or any sport for that matter, because you'll be able to tie this in, and any coaches out there in the area. I mean, this is a high school football hotbed. We've had some pros come out of here right down the road from where we're sitting, actually like 2 blocks away. Mainland Regional High School this year going undefeated, something that's really not heard of too much in Jersey, and a couple of their players committing to colleges. So without further ado, I got the proprietor, the CEO, president, whatever you want to call it, expert in the transfer portal, my man Rico. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up, Butch? Thanks for having me, man. I hope you can hear me clearly.
No, clear as day. That's why we like to use the Zoom. So Rico, I mean, what you do is fabulous, and the thing that's good about it is you're honest. I mean, you pull no punches, and a lot of the things, I mean, I've been around the game too, but that's not what this is about. A lot of things we kind of agree with what we see. And what's interesting is the last week or so, how these people actually try to get over and blackmail you, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So, Rico, now, what I wanted to get into, and I'll give you plenty of opportunity later to kind of hype up your stuff, but area high schools and colleges here in Jersey, like I said to you, this in South Jersey, North Jersey too. North Jersey has your Bergen Catholics and your Don Boscos, and I've seen that you've reviewed people in the past, either their video or just reviewing players. But it seems that down in this area, as I was researching for this interview, Syracuse seems to do a good job as far as recruiting over here in Jersey and parts of southeastern Pennsylvania. Is that something you seem to see, or you have any kind of answer for that?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. So, yeah, like I said, I'm RicoKnows. Most people know me as RicoKnows, just all one word. And I talk transfer portal, but in that process, I analyze 134 different FBS level teams. So I really focus on the FBS level. And when you start to identify teams and you learn all the players and you sit there and I can tell you people on the roster and where they're coming from and their origin and their whole high school career, what you start to do, if you want to get real expertise, is you start to study the coaching staffs. And if you study coaching staffs and you study their origin and maybe their pipelines to different high schools, then you'll start to see why the players make the decisions they make. Then you'll start to see the relationships that have been formed with the high school kids or with the particular transfer. Syracuse, their coaches come from Jersey. So some of their players come from Jersey. And it's so much so last year, 2 transfers from Bergen Catholic actually left Notre Dame and I want to say Nebraska. Was Bellamy and another kid. They're both in the secondary. They both played at Bergen Catholic. And they jumped in the transfer portal and said, we're going to go play for Dino Babers. But it's really about those position coaches and those recruiters having a pipeline from Jersey. So you're always going to get players from that particular pocket willing to go there. It's not always regional. Like when you look at Syracuse, you think, well, they should be recruiting in New York. Well, New York doesn't have much of a hotbed when it comes to players. And upstate New York players typically go to New Hampshire or Buffalo or play in the MAC. So when you want to be competitive in the ACC, you're going to have to find other good players. And that's going to be somewhat in the entire upper Northeast region, meaning you'll have to hit Massachusetts, you'll have to hit Pennsylvania, you'll have to hit portions of Jersey. And that's why Syracuse is excelling, is the position coaches they've hired. Those guys have roots from Jersey. That's how you get Kyle McCord.
We see Kyle McCord.
Right.
He jumped over to Syracuse. And what's interesting, another thing about Kyle McCord, he's a Philly guy, or at least he went to St. Joe's Prep, which I'm sure you know, St. Joe's Prep in Philadelphia. They don't only actually put a lot of people in FBS, they put a lot of people in the NFL. I mean, you got Marvin Harrison Jr., who's projected to be in the top 10, definitely, if not the top 5. And then you got Kyle McCord, a St. Joe's guy. He goes over to Syracuse. And then coming out of St. Joe's Prep in Philly, you had Runyon Jr., you got Trotter Jr., which being in the area, now that I mentioned that name, Trotter Jr., he doesn't play the game like his father. And I think in this area, a lot of people have I want to say kind of an expectation that saying Trotter Jr. is going to be like saying his father. And I don't feel that's the case. What's your professional or what's your knowledgeable view on that?
Yeah, so I do an assessment on all draft prospects. Obviously, I followed these players from high school through their collegiate careers. So I try to, the last time I give a assessment on a player is right before the NFL draft. And then what they do in the NFL, I have no control over because coaching schemes, contracts, injuries, just a number of scenarios take place, and there's so many variables that you can't really predict somebody's NFL success. You just can't. It's unfortunate. Sometimes you get drafted by a team with a deep depth chart and things of that nature. But if I'm looking at Trotter for what he is, Trotter Jr., he is my number 2 ranked linebacker going into the draft. That's how much I think of him. I think so highly of young men who can go to Clemson, start dominating, and outwork other quality people. And from what I've seen on a week-to-week basis, game-to-game basis, year-to-year growth spurt, I think I'm not worried about comparing to your father. Patrick Surtain doesn't compare to his father. I don't try to sit down and identify the legacy players and go, are you as good as your dad? I just did a review on Elijah Burris, Plexico Burris' son. And when I did a review of his film, they tell me, well, he's a 3-star. He's not a 5-star like his dad. His dad was an amazing basketball player. He's not I do not care about that. I look at the young man and I say, you know what you can get from your parents? Work ethic, pedigree, an understanding of what it takes to get to that echelon. So I believe in some of these kids, if you come from NFL parents, maybe you have an easier upbringing. Maybe you didn't have to come from the gutter like some of us. Yes, you grew up with a silver spoon. There's no negative to that. I mean, you had personal trainers, you had position coaches, you had an advantage that others don't have, but you also understand you have somebody in your corner who knows what it takes to get there. Now, sometimes they can become overbearing and kind of, I guess, get in the way of things, is how I'll put it. But I think that there's more positives than negatives in that regard.
Now, one thing that I like that you do, and folks out there, I'm telling you, if you have kids or even if you're somebody out there that's in college thinking about getting in the transfer portal or whatever, I highly recommend you got to get on RicoKnows because you're going to only get a touch of him today in 20 minutes, but he'll tell it like it is. And leading a lot of times in your high school assessments, your film reviews, and it seems like a lot of the kids in this area, for all I know, they may be watching what you say, but putting on the right shoe that fits as far as making a choice to go play ball. Now, right down the street from me, as I said earlier, right down the street from where I'm sitting, Mainland Regional High School, they had the Maxwell Club High School Player of the Year in Stephen Ordville, and 5.0 GPA. He's going to Princeton.
Nice.
Shoe fits, right? Going to Princeton, 5.0 GPA. You can see just by his choice of Princeton where his mind is. He's going to play some ball, but with a 5.0 GPA, he's probably going to the shoe where the shoe fits. A couple other kids in the area from some of these regional high schools here in Jersey, picking places like Villanova, Holy Cross, Delaware. And when I see that, and I basically got this feeling from watching you, when I see that, it kind of brings a smile to my face because I'm saying I see these kids play sometimes in person, sometimes online live down here in Jersey. And I say to myself, I'm like, please don't it's good to have a little bit of confidence. I don't even want to say cockiness, but confidence. But please don't overvalue. Take advice and please don't overvalue yourself. And when I see these kids going to the FBS schools, I kind of like it. Now, somebody that's in the transfer portal that I believe I may have heard you say his name once before. He's transferring from Cincinnati and he's going to Delaware. He's a local kid, Jojo Bermudez.
Yep.
Cedar Creek kid. And again, I think the move to Delaware for somebody of his level, he didn't play at Cincinnati. Now he's going to go to Delaware. And there's no doubt in my mind by making that jump that he's definitely going to play more. And, this is the kind of information, folks, that you're going to get on RicoKnows.com. Now, when we come back from the break in a little bit, Rico, I want you to touch on what I feel is the most important part. I want you to give advice to those listening out there as far as making, their huddle tapes or whatever tapes, because when I see some of the tapes that you look at, and I believe I seen one today, the one with the undersized defensive lineman. If you got to get if you get a headache watching that film, or you have to sit there and search, you're absolutely right. A coach's attention span or a recruiter's attention span is about 2.5 minutes, if that. And if they don't see what they like in that first play, and the advice you give, and we're going to get into that after the break, if you can hang on for me. The advice you give is, as far as that, I think it's priceless. And the fact that there's people out there that, after what you do and seeing the results, mainly on social media, and like you said, there's no doubt in my mind that you're getting hundreds of people, if not thousands, dropping into your IM. The advice is just second to none. So when we come back, if you can hold on for me, can you get into some advice on how to set yourself up for success, either if you're in the transfer portal or you're a high school player out there, or maybe sitting deep on a depth chart somewhere and you want to make a move? Can you do that for me?
Most definitely.
All right, Rico, thanks a lot. You're with Butch Butchanico on WOND News Talk 1400 AM. If you want to call in, 609-927-1100. You can also get us on WONDradio.com. We're with the great, and I call him great, Rico Knows, giving you some great advice. We'll be back in a minute.
Off the Press with Scott Cronick is presented by Shore Physicians Group and Ocean Casino Resort. Leonard Skinner, live in concert. Friday, June 28th, 9 p.m. Ovation Hall in Ocean Casino Resort. Celebrating 50 years of Leonard Skinner. On sale now at theoceanac.com. Leonard Skinner.
Hi, it's Paul Kelly, president of Longport Media, the total marketing solution for your business. Summer is coming, and now is the time to partner with us to develop a marketing plan that will push your sales to new heights. Now, before you start any marketing campaign, you should ask yourself a couple of questions. Is the advertising I'm investing in fully targetable, and is it fully trackable with proof of delivery? If you invest in a digital marketing campaign with Longport Media, the answers are always yes and yes. Let's target your ideal customers online and on their phones and anywhere else they consume content digitally. We'll reach them online, on social media, and they'll find you when they're searching for what your business provides. And let's supercharge that digital campaign with engaging, memorable ads on America's #1 mass medium, the radio. The combination of digital and radio is the total marketing solution to increase your business. We'll make it easy, effective, and totally trackable. Get started today at longportmedia.com.
Spring fun is in full swing at Resorts Casino Hotel. Hop on over to the Mad Bunny Pop-Up Bar for vibrant cocktails and live entertainment every Saturday night. Take home a Queen's Ransom every Sunday with our $3,000 Cleopatra slot tournament. And swing by DraftKings Sportsbook for the best of baseball season with $3 domestic drafts, a new food menu, and a 15-foot LED video wall. For more information, go to resortsac.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Ensure that you reach your weekend destination safely and on time by listening to WOND's Total Traffic Report. Heard throughout the day, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Exclusively on News Talk 1400 and 92.3 WOND. Field today on Off the Press with Scott Cronick. Butch Butchanico on News Talk 1400 and 92.3 WOND.
Oh, we're back here at WOND with the great Rico of RicoKnows. He's the only, I know people for 30 years, and he's an expert as far as I'm concerned. Resorts, Hotel, and Casino. The Mad Bunny Bar, madder than ever now through April 30th. Resort's newest pop-up, the Mad Bunny Bar, now madder than ever, is open through April 30th. Step into the Mad Bunny's Cocktail Lab and try one of his $5 test tube shots or the Mad Bunny Cocktail. Live entertainment every Friday and Saturday night. That's at Resorts, Hotel, and Casino. They do a good job with them pop-up bars over there every holiday. Right there on the boardwalk, right there adjacent to Steel Pier with the big first wheel. You can't miss it. All right, Rico, so we're back. So, as promised, now, here I want to set the situation up for you. Somebody calls you or sends something into you, whatever. I'm somebody that's sitting, let me say I'm in an FBS school, and I'm sitting deep on the depth chart, really not getting many reps in practice. They just brought in a couple people from the transfer portal that were starters on other teams. I want to put myself something together. Or I'm a high school senior. I was everything, name your state. And everybody's giving me advice. I got to put something together. So I sit down with my coaches and I'll just use this because everybody knows. I'm going to put a huddle tape together and send out some emails. What is Rico's recommendations?
So I have different recommendations for both scenarios, unfortunately. But if we're talking about the huddle tape specifically, that's the highlight tape. We'll talk about the kid if you're in school, at a school, already enrolled, you're a college player, and you're thinking about jumping in the transfer portal. The first thing I would say to any player thinking about jumping into the transfer portal is understand who the transfer portal's for. It is not for the under-recruited. If you are under-recruited coming out of high school and you think you should jump in the portal because they just don't know who you are and you're ready to prove yourself and all this stuff, that's not the way it's going to happen. It's not going to happen that way. The vast majority of players finding homes in the transfer portal is because of relationships. 99% of them are relationships. I shouldn't have said 99. 90% are relationship driven. So then you have another 5% are players that want to be back close to home. Maybe they're moving because of, proximity, they're homesick, things of that nature. And then you got another 5% that are looking at, I want to go somewhere and get some playing time. Everybody thinks the vast majority of people jumping into the transfer portal are playing time guys. I don't recommend it. And the reason for that is you don't have any tape. You don't have any tape if you didn't get playing time. They're not going to see your practice tape and be wowed. They're going to look at you, say you couldn't break the 2 deep. Why weren't you starting? You're going to blame coaches. You're going to say it was scheme. You're going to say the guy who recruited me moved on to a bigger and better thing, and now it's my turn. All these other scenarios are going to take place. So you're going to really struggle with trying to convince somebody you're worth taking. That's the harsh reality of transfers right now. If you don't have relationships, if you don't have a coach beating down your door, and what I mean by that is, yes, I'm referring to tampering. There are graduate assistants out there, graduate assistants that are reaching out, sending tweets saying, hey, man, if you jumped in the portal, we'd be interested in you. They're doing this because the players are coming and talking to me every single day about it. So if you haven't had a team reach out to you and say, we want you, don't jump in the portal, okay? Don't. You will find yourself without a home. There are no chairs. You got to wait. You got to be strategic, and you got to understand what's happening. If you wanted to jump in the portal, it should have happened before National Letter of Intent Day, before they started signing all the high school kids, because there were still scholarships available. Right now, you're looking at academic attrition, and you're looking at spring portal. It opens Tuesday. Who's going to leave? So for the college players, it's tough. I'm sorry, Butch. Go ahead.
That's all right. What a lot of people don't realize, the casual fan or the college football fan from August to December, is there's dozens, if not hundreds, of players in that portal that either have to go back to their school with their tail between their legs, or I don't know what happens to them. What happens to them guys that go in the portal, Rico?
Okay, so to be clear, yeah, to be clear, there was 1,400, not dozens, not hundreds, over 1,000. Okay. Now, what happens to those young men? They get jobs and start paying taxes like the rest of us. That's what happens to them. Okay, they become contributing members to society. They are no longer football players. I had 2 young men they were twin brothers from San Diego Toreros, that FCS school. They reached out to me, said, Rico, can you help us? Can you make a highlight tape and find a school for us? You know where I got them an offer? Back at their old school. I helped them get back on their old team. By the way, one of them was player of the week this year, and he was one of the best players on defense, and the team was glad to have him back. But the vast majority of these players, the minute they declare for the portal, you lose your academic aid at the end of the fiscal year or the end of the semester. So you don't have a scholarship anymore. It's musical chairs, and there's nowhere to sit down. Okay? There's nowhere to sit down. The music stops playing. You look around and you go, wait, they filled my chair with a different transfer. And all of this is because of COVID. It's not anybody else's fault but COVID. And people need to understand that. Every team is only limited now. FBS teams, you get 85 scholarships. FCS, you get 62 scholarships. Division II, 36 scholarships. And you're limited to those number of scholarships, and you got to make a football team out of it. Now, in Division II, they break up the scholarships. They give out, it's 36 full-ride scholarships, but you can give a guy 2 years and another guy 2 years and another guy 1 year. You can split it up, and coaches are very creative with that. But at the FBS level, because of Title IX, it dictates how many scholarships you can have, male and female scholarship sports. So there are 85 scholarships at every single FBS school. The minute those seats are up, there's no one else to get. Everybody's getting preferred walk-on. That means you don't got a scholarship. And what people need to understand is COVID gave everybody an extra year of eligibility. NCAA said 2020 doesn't count because half the teams didn't play, another half played a truncated schedule, and then somebody played a full schedule. Shout out to the SEC. So they're like, hey, we're not going to play this game of who played what and did what. So they gave everybody an extra year of eligibility. But you know what they didn't do? They didn't increase the limit on 85 scholarships. So these teams that are signing 25 scholarship players out of high school every year typically would sign 100 in a 4-year cycle, and you redshirt an entire class, which doesn't happen anymore because of the transfer portal, but you would theoretically redshirt an entire class. Over a 5-year period, you should have 125 scholarship players that you're rotating around. And yes, there's injuries, academic attrition, some transfers, but now you got another year to add on to that. So you got to squeeze 150 guys into 85. This leaves players not getting to the FBS level that deserve to be there. This has super seniors everywhere, 6- and 7-year guys who get injured applying for an 8th year. You got 26-year-old seniors. This is very normal, and it's because of COVID. Hell, Virginia last year, because of the mass shooting that they had on their team, Virginia got, not only do they have the COVID year, but the Virginia Cavaliers got an extra year of eligibility because of the shooting. They got guys that are going to be there for 7 years.
Rubs a lot of people the wrong way. Not only that, you have guys that play for, they're playing for, and a lot of times you say it because the quarterback is the height of the spotlight's on them. But you'll have guys out there, and in my opinion, it's just my opinion, they kind of abusing the transfer portal. I mean, you got quarterbacks out there that are playing for their fourth different school in 5 years. Then you got the situation what the guy did. He goes to Iowa, everybody's excited. He grabs $100,000, and then he goes back to where he came from. I mean, this is the kind of stuff with the transfer portal that I think, you got guys like you said. I think it was the tight end from Miami asking for a 7th or 8th year of eligibility. And then you got guys that are 29, 30 years old that are playing on a Saturday afternoon with 21 and 22-year-olds trying to live out a dream. So, with the transfer portal, Rico, I think that gives a lot of people a bad taste.
Yeah, unfortunately, I used to look at it like that, but unfortunately, if players aren't on contracts, if they're not locked into schools based upon contracts, then I think we're being hypocritical if we limit the players. I want to say this. If you were a regular student and you wanted to transfer, are you allowed to transfer? And the answer is yes. Right? I was in the military for over 20 years, Butch. And in the military, when you serve, you move from state to state, from school to school. And when you transfer, you go to any school that will give you the most amount of transfer credits possible because you're trying to get your degree. So why is it that we hold athletes to a different standard and say they can't transfer or we want to limit their transfers when at the end of the day, they're supposed to be student athletes? And student comes first, right? They're supposed to be student athletes, so they should have the luxury or the ability to transfer. At the same time, They're being recruited by grown men and coaches who are allowed to move and be poached at any moment in time in the middle of the season.
That's the counter argument. Like if coaches and coaching staffs can just,
Yep.
They could just pack their overnight bag and move on. It should be the same thing for players. We got a couple minutes left. Rico, I really want you to
I meant to talk about the huddle
out there where they could find you and some of the things they could look for on your sites.
Hey, Butch, I apologize. I meant to talk about the huddle tape, and I got off on this tirade and this rant.
Okay. I'm going to have you on again, buddy.
I appreciate that. Hey, they don't need to worry about where they need to find me. If you're making a huddle tape, I want you to make sure you never use slow-mo. Do not use slow-mo. That is important. Number 2, don't put your 40 time on there. Let coaches try to determine what your 40 is. You are not a professional runner. You've never been trained to run the 40. You don't have a clue how to run it. Don't say you're a 4.6 and we turn on the tape, you're really a 4.8. Don't say you're a 4.7 and you could potentially be a 4.5. Do not put your 40 on there. Do not, and I repeat, do not use slow-mo, and never show us a play that you haven't identified yourself first. Please identify yourself before the play. Let it go. Do not stop any plays in the middle. That's what I recommend. I was talking to a coach last night. He was looking at huddle tape, and when he sent me a screenshot, he literally had 10 huddle tabs open.
Jeez.
Yes, 10 at one time.
Real quick, I got to go to a break. Where can they find you?
RicoKnows TikTok, all one word. RicoKnows TikTok. I'm on Twitter, and I'm also obviously on TikTok. You just search RicoKnows, all one word. I'm on YouTube, RicoKnows. Those are my big 3. Obviously, I'm on Patreon for all my premium members. People are MVPs.
We'll get you back again, Rico. We got to go to a break here.
No problem, brother.
Thanks for joining me. I'll see you online, buddy.
Yes, sir. Don't.
Butch Butchanico, WOND News Talk 1400 AM 92.3.
From AB.
And there you have it, guys. Sometimes people don't want to hear the truth, but he does. Butch is cool people. What I would say is people don't understand what it really takes to be great in recruiting and trying to get noticed. And I would tell you, do not use slow-mo. Make sure you use the right clips for things. I didn't mean to get into a debate about how good the transfer portal is or how great it is and what it's need for. But if anybody vilifies it, we're gonna go round for round. And I don't like to debate. I like to educate.